What's going on, y'all? I'm your host, Chifyechi, now tuned into The Reach. Today we have Starr. Starr is coming out of Charleston and amazing rapper, man. Artist, I should say. He's an amazing artist. So tell me, you were born in Charleston, and what was your childhood like growing up?
I was born in Charleston, and I grew up in a small town, Berkeley County, outside of Charleston. It's called Pineville, South Carolina. So it was like, we grew up single mom, me and my older sister. We had a pretty regular childhood, I guess a pretty black childhood.
Yeah.
We did stuff. We was into cartoons and, we were, I guess, both creative. She used to write, and that's probably how I started writing, finding her little book of poems or whatever that she had hidden under her bed, and I started reading it, and then I started writing, so we were pretty cool, close with each other.
Okay, so you've been at it since you were young.
Yeah, I mean,
poetry.
we were writing since we were like, 5, 6, 7, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like, the vibe that you give off is like you were raised by a grandmother. Like,
Yeah.
that's what I feel like.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, your values and like the way that you carry yourself.
Yeah, my grandma that is true. My grandma had a big part of us growing up, because that's the culture, that's how the community was. I guess you can think like in southern and rural communities, it's like everybody, Big Mama is like, she always got that influence over the family, and she was one of the women who helped raise me, my grandma. So, I spent a lot of time with her and just being around her, having her tell me stories and just watching how she went about day-to-day things and listening to how things used to be. And I guess a lot of it influences me, and people can see it in me now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, like, you got a vast number of influences. You know. We did our little research. You got Otis Redding,
Yeah.
Frank Sinatra,
Yeah.
Miles Davis. Tell me, how did they influence you?
Musically, man, like my house was like a house where a lot of music was played, and growing up listening to music like that, distinct voices, they kind of stick in your head. I can remember, whether it was Saturday morning, Sunday mornings, certain songs, resonating throughout the house. Clean Up Sunday, Aretha Franklin and, Otis Redding, The Temptations, different things, Al Green. And the older I got, I started digging into their stories, because everybody got a story. They have, biographies and autobiographies that are written about them, and just digging deep into what brought them to that point they were at. We know it as, fame. We know the hit records, but once I started digging into who they were as people, you find that connection, that thing that a lot of Black people share, and it's a Black story, but it's like an American story too. So, it resonates with me and how I write and how I create now.
You released your first project, The Experience, like 2010.
Yeah.
2010.
Yeah.
How much have you grown since then?
I think I've grown tremendously since that time. I mean, 2010, I was like 22. I was just really kind of coming into who I was, that I wanted to do music, who I was as an artist, forming a team around me, and trying to navigate what I wanted to do, what I wanted to be remembered for, in hip hop or in rap, especially in South Carolina. So from then to now, it's so much life that I've lived, and it's just like, a span of 6 years, from everything going on around to everything going on, within our own lives. I've grown like a lot since that first project.
And you yourself, you have your own project coming out,
Right.
After Lunch.
After Lunch, yeah.
I'm ready for it, man.
Yeah, I'm ready for it too, man.
Sheesh, because the first one, man.
Thank you.
Crazy.
Yeah, thank
Amazing.
you.
And what kind of features you got coming up on that?
Man, I got some features on this one. This one is more feature heavy as opposed to Free Lunch.
Mm-hmm.
This Free Lunch was just, it was a lot of me, and I think I had maybe 3 features, 3 collaborations
Great
on that
features
album.
at that. Great
Hey,
features.
shout out to those guys, man. Those guys came and they really did their thing. And this one I wanted to be, it's a shorter project. It's gonna be roughly 9 to 10 tracks, but I wanted to do more collaborations with people that I really like and really respect, especially artists from South Carolina. So people like Nisi Blues, 803 The Click,
Mm-hmm.
Different members of Oxymoron, hip hop group, Matt Monday. There are a lot of different people who I can't name them all, but it's like, they're really dope, man. And South Carolina's really got more talent right now than I ever remember it having. So My goal
agree.
is to try to work with
I
as many of
agree.
them as I can. Yeah.
I really agree.
Yeah.
And, what would be the meaning behind this album?
This is a continuation of Free Lunch. Free Lunch was a concept album, you know, in that concept of the Black Panther Party and the free breakfast program that they did for the inner city children. After Lunch is kind of what comes after. We all know what comes in the midst of, you know, the struggle, what comes in the midst of when everybody's gathering, when everybody's screaming at the top of their lungs that let their voice be heard. Then what comes afterward? What comes after, you know, the cameras leave? What comes after when it's really time to strategize and rebuild? And I think that is what's going to be the framework of this EP.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's dope. Because like when I think of the titles, when I think of Free Lunch, I remember like how elementary school I had free lunch.
Exactly.
And then After Lunch, now that's your new title.
Exactly.
After Lunch, I think of, damn, I'm going home now.
You know
So
what
like,
I'm saying? After lunch,
next?
it's like when nobody else is really watching, what you gonna do? When it's all on you, what you gonna do? So
That's
yeah.
a great concept, man.
Thank you, man. Thank you.
Good job, good job. And you write a lot of poetry. So
Yeah.
would you say that poetry is your first love, or would you say making music?
I would probably have to say poetry, because a lot of the music I make is lyric based. I consider myself a lyricist, so I write all the time, and it drives the pulse of a lot of the records that I do, what I write. I remember one of my producers telling me one time, he would make beats for me. We worked together since the beginning. His name is Real Williams, and one of the things he would say is, I don't want to be one of those producers who overproduces beats for you, because I'll put so much stuff in a beat, then I'll give it to you, and you don't have any space to really do your thing. He was always telling me, think of your pen as an instrument. So that's the final instrument to go on a record. So, you know, you control it with different things like your flow, your cadences, and your wordplay, and you try to weave these puzzles in there, but poetry is what, it's all derived from that. Yeah.
What advice would you give to somebody that's trying to begin writing music, writing poetry?
Right.
Like
I would tell them to write all the time. Write all the time. Talk to people. Talk to as many people as they can about shit they might not even think is relevant. Talk about love. Talk about life. Talk about their dreams. Listen to stories people tell them. Read books. Find things that, you know, you're really interested in, and find books about those things to read. Dig into people's stories. Read biographies. Watch documentaries, and just write. Write how you feel. Write rhyme, metaphors, write symbolic pieces, you know, all that strengthens your instrument, which is the pen game. It just allows you to write things in a way that has layers. You can tell somebody, it's easy to tell somebody, you know, man, I met this girl and we fell for each other and we were in love, but it's a whole nother thing to paint a portrait of that with a metaphor of using, you know, sun, stars, moons, or just anything that we see on an everyday basis that you could tie into how strong your love could be. Is metaphoric way of writing it. Write all the time. It's like a jump shot. Keep shooting. You know, stay in the gym.
Yes, sir. How do you feel about everything that's going on with the Black Lives Matter situations and police brutality and, you know, just all the ignorance? And
you know, I think
other than that,
I don't want to get to a point where it's normal.
Right.
Like we normalize it. Like every time you see one of these videos, it should be as much of a tragedy as the last time. But because we're so used to this since almost we were kids, we're so used to being profiled, we're so used to being, you know, discriminated against. We have to find a way to consciously always remember that these are lives. These are not just videos we watch, and these are people's lives. These people's lives matter in a way where they have family members. A lot of these men and women who are killed, whether they're unarmed by police officers, what happens when all the cameras leave their house? You know, they have wives they leave behind. They have husbands and children that they leave behind. And I support the movement of Black Lives Matter because as citizens in this country, we have the right to certain things. We have the right, we're supposed to have the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. We're supposed to have certain God-given rights, and you just can't violate our rights and expect us, you know, to remain silent. And I figure, in my mind, I feel like there's this culture in the United States where we kind of we coddle police officers a little bit. Like, I understand they do a tough job, and that tough job is appreciated that they do, but at the same time, soldiers who volunteer to risk their lives to serve this country and go to war and fight for us, even soldiers can be reprimanded. I see soldiers all the time that are dishonorably discharged when they do things that are against what they're supposed to be doing. And I don't understand why it's so hard for people to stand up and say, systemic racism has crept into every major institution in this country. We know this. We got the stats to prove this. So why is it so hard? Why do we always have to premise everything we say with, I know all officers aren't bad officers? I don't have, that goes beyond saying. You can be a good officer and get introduced into a system that does not mean good all the time. You can, that can happen. So everything that Black Lives Matter is talking about and bringing awareness to, the protests, the disruption, because that is what protesting is all about, disrupting to bring attention to different issues. I support it, and I'm Black Lives Matter, and I'm not really here for the All Lives Matter thing, you know. All Lives Matter, I never seen a rally planned by All Lives Matter group. I never seen, you know, any protest by All Lives Matter group. I've never seen any awareness brought. I've never seen, it's just a rebuttal to people who figure that Black people don't go through discrimination in this country because they may be white and it's not in their everyday experience.
Exactly.
That's like me being a guy, right? Can't relate. It's like me being a guy because I'm a man, and women saying, we're discriminated against all the time. And I'm telling them, no, you're not. Sexism doesn't exist because it doesn't exist in my everyday experiences. I'm not a victim of it. It's total ignorance. And at a certain point, ignorance is no longer an excuse because ignorance of the law. That's what many judges will tell you before they giving men and women years and years and years behind bars. Ignorance of the law is no excuse. So at the end of the day, ignorance of injustice to a certain point is no excuse anymore.
Right. Thank you for your time, man.
Thank you for having me, man.
Right now, we about to get into your little performance, man. You got something for us?
Yeah, I'm gonna kick something for y'all, man. I appreciate y'all.
Let's get it, man. Thank you. Appreciate you for everything, man. Yeah, stay tuned. Got his performance coming right up.
Yeah. They say my style's taboo. It's not a tattoo on my temple. The golden boy, the double Windsor knot, the classic corduroys. It ain't hard to tell. I'm more El Haj Shabazz than Nas. But the flow is ambrosia for the gods. So fuck entertainment. My style is pounding the pavement. I'm Jesus and truths when the Jews used to be melanated. This is painful to speak, but believe that my speech is honest. I bequeath no beef. I'm just trying to release some problems for the battered Black babies whom we fit crowns. I pray what I spit is equivalent to Farrakhan sponsored sit-downs. To all my brocephs, all of them hoteps. The woman is God. I just nod and I follow God with a close step. The most blessed. Blowing fluorescent hymns out of my closed chest. Charleston, Flint to Ferguson, all my folk who the most stressed. See all my verses be for this insurgency. I'm more Reese White on the mic, cause the fire, wind, and the earth is me. 90s babies, that's Tim's rims and a herringbone. Hell in the streets just to bring us a little heaven home. Acclaim greets that shit that leaks from my reservoir. And fame fleets, but my name speaks to my repertoire. Like God, I mold this clay to power our dreams. One I can sell to soldiers who keep their eyes on the green. I pondered and drew it up like a chef. I curried the pot. For niggas who under pressure to hustle and move the rock. I jot letters for you zealous storytellers. I pen metaphysical law, but you niggas beg me for metaphors. I spewed hues of unrest where I sweat speckled by sunset back when your favorite few had confused tunes in their lungs' breath. This is a culture shift. I'm doing culture shit. I pillage the village, leaving carcasses to feed the vultures with. I'm on that real life is good, God is great. I'm summa cum laude straight when I'm cruising out in that Audi 8 after lunch. The Reach.